Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends of the CTBTO, thank you very much for joining us during an intense and I must say very impressive conference hosted by the organization. Our event tonight consists of two parts. A reception, which I'm told was already started and then stopped again, but there will be a reception just after this discussion. And before that, we will have actually a discussion with our distinguished panelists. We're very grateful for their presence. As the EU Deputy Permanent Representative, I am very pleased by this great turnout. And I will just introduce an important message from Brussels, then say a few words about our 40 years initiative, and introduce our speakers. So on the first point, I'm sure many of you have seen yesterday a message by High Representative Federica Mogherini screened in this very room about the close cooperation between the CTBTO and the EU. But we are lucky, we have another message by our High Representative that we would like to share with you. So please have a look.
Dear friends, 40 years ago, Vienna became one of the global capitals of multilateralism and international cooperation. And from the very first moment, the European Union was there to work side by side with the UN, with its agencies, and with the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. Already back then, it was very clear that wherever multilateral cooperation is being used, that is also the European Union's place. And this is even more true today. Our world gets more complex by the day, and more it needs multilateral win-win solutions. Yet, too many are questioning multilateralism and the very idea of rules-based global governance. In these years, the European Union has become a global point of reference for all those who want to preserve, reform, and expand multilateralism. Our cooperation with all UN agencies is now closer than ever, including with those agencies based in Vienna, with offices in Vienna. The International Atomic Energy Agency is our constant interlocutor and partner and the benchmark in the work to implement and preserve the nuclear deal with Iran. We engage on a daily basis with the UNHCR and the IOM, for instance, to empty detention centers in Libya or to address refugee crises all around the world. The UN Industrial Development Organization and the Office on Drugs and Crime are essential partners in our work on sustainable development. For us Europeans, engaging with the UN system is the most natural choice because multilateralism is our DNA. But it is also the most effective choice as a guarantee of more democratic decisions that can better stand the test of time. These celebrations are not all about the past. Our support to the UN couldn't be more urgent for our present and for our future. I want to thank you all for being there, and happy anniversary to all of us.
So having heard the words of our High Representative, I wanted to add that on the 9th of May this year, Europe Day, we launched a series under the title EU-UN 40 Years Together in Vienna. You see the logo over there. Reflecting that in 1979, both the Vienna International Center, or VIC, and the EU delegation here in Vienna were established. A key aim of the initiative being to sensitize new audiences, the general public, students, think tanks, the media, but of course, very importantly also scientists, about how the EU and the organizations based in the VIC seek multilateral answers for global challenges, pointing to concrete and tangible achievements. We are therefore holding events outside of the VIC as well, focusing on one organization per month, and June in that context is devoted to the EU-CTBTO partnership. More information is available on our website, and please follow us under our hashtag EU-UNVIE on Twitter. Co-ownership and burden sharing with our EU member states, but also with third countries, is very important for us. So please feel free to share your views on our campaign, and feel free to approach us also with proposals, ideas for future events. Now it's time to zoom back in on the CTBTO. This crucial organization is, of course, still a bit younger than 40, but before that changes, we will hopefully be able to celebrate entry into force of the treaty. Our speakers have kindly agreed to share remarks with you and in the interest of time, I will not summarize their impressive resumes. I'm delighted to give the floor first to the head of the EU delegation to the international organizations in Vienna, His Excellency Ambassador Didier Lenoir.
Thank you very much. And I would start by apologizing, Dr. Zerbo, for piggybacking on your wonderful conference to organize our event. But I think that these 40 years and celebrating our presence here in Vienna, celebrating multilateralism, this perfectly fit with the CTBT. I'm just saying that we like CTBT for what it does, but we also like CTBT for what it is. A very good example of effective multilateralism, pragmatism that was needed to overcome the challenge raised by the non-entry into force of the treaty. So again, I'm piggybacking on your reception, but it's to pay tribute to what you are doing and to what the organization is. I'd like also to thank the speaker for joining us. It demonstrates that we are not the only ones celebrating the CTBT. It testifies that multilateralism is, I would say, a value that is shared by many. On the CTBT, the fact that the EU is a staunch supporter of CTBT is well known. We are supporting CTBT politically. All our member states have signed, are ratified, and are supporting CTBT. I think we are probably one of the few, if not the only, regional group where all countries have actually signed and ratified the treaty, the CTBT. The High Representative, Madame Mogherini, is personally committed, personally engaged. She is a member of the group of eminent persons supporting the CTBT. She addressed the conference yesterday through a video message stating our conviction that the scientific and technological activities undertaken by the organization and more broadly the cooperation with the scientific community are essential to achieve CTBT universalization, to enhance the CTBTO verification regime, as well as to enable CTBT member states to reap the full benefits of the civil and scientific application of monitoring data. This Science and Technology Conference provide the treaty and its organization with a very welcome publicity and visibility. And we do welcome the contribution of the scientific community, and we want to pay tribute to the contribution of the scientific community to the work we all started more than 20 years ago. This contribution has been going on over the last 20 years along three main lines of activities. The entry into force, it might be perceived as a political process, but actually the scientific community can positively influence political decision makers in countries that still have to ratify the treaty and campaign for entry into force. The second line of activities, obviously, the operational activities of the organization and the detection of nuclear tests. The development of the international monitoring system and the international data center are major scientific and technological achievements, and the Executive Secretary is probably better placed than I am to explain why. It's a major contribution to our non-proliferation effort. So it's important to complete this effort, it's important to maintain the IMS, it's important to develop it. And we as EU, we would like to urge all state signatories that still have to establish monitoring stations to cooperate with the PTS in this regard. Third line of activities, the civil and scientific applications such as disaster management or atmospheric research. These are also very important elements delivered by a scientific community to the benefit of the international community. For all these reasons, the EU has been supporting the CTBT, not only politically, but also financially. I think since 2006, we have committed more than 23 million euros to CTBT. We have, I think, been distributing a number of brochures to explain where that money has gone. I would like to highlight two aspects of our cooperation. This cooperation is very operational, it's very concrete, and it benefits us all. Two examples maybe, the technical assistance and integrated capacity building. We have developed a program to assist third countries to establish and increase expertise in their national data centers. Experts from all continents have been benefiting from this workshop, from this training, from these capacity building activities, and now in a better place to use CTBT monitoring data, including for disaster warning or for research purposes. A second example is the enhancement of the CTBTO atmospheric transport modeling capabilities. The EU has been contributing to these activities to track the movement of airborne radioactive material. As a result, I mean, we have been able to, the organization, the PTS has been able to enhance high-resolution modeling and simulations, and these enhanced systems are now available. To sum up, I would say that these achievements so far mean that the CTBTO has provided the world with a truly global high-tech monitoring system for monitoring nuclear explosion with multiple benefits for development. This is something that no single country would have been able to develop alone. I'll stop there, but if you allow me a last word, I mean, we have a competition to identify a young scientist that has developed project matching EU priorities. There will be on Friday a Star Award that will be handed over to this scientist. So I call on all of you to cast your votes via the conference application. And once again, Executive Secretary, many thanks for everything you have been doing and your organization has been doing over the past years.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Didier. Now let's hear the voice of the CTBTO, His Excellency Dr. Lassina Zerbo, the Executive Secretary.
Thank you, and thank you, Didier, for your kind words. It's always a pleasure to be at an event that EU is organizing, because you mentioned clearly that EU is one of the great supporters of the CTBT, both technically and politically. For a simple reason, EU represents collectively 40% of the budget of the organization, and you say that all EU members have signed and ratified the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty. But I want to point out Ms. Mogherini's unwavering support to the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. She is and she was a GEM member already before taking office as High Representative of the European Union for Foreign Affairs, and she decided to keep GEM membership within that function. As she told me, this was easy for her because all countries of EU are signatories and ratifying state of the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty. And I think we can't thank her enough for what she has done. You've heard her video messages both yesterday and today. I haven't had a single hiccup with Ms. Mogherini when it was about getting or seeking her support for the CTBT and then for the work we do. And I think today it's a tribute to her and then to all of you for the leadership she has given to the EU engagement for the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty and her personal support to this treaty, and then to the overall framework of disarmament and non-proliferation. And I want to thank her here for that. As I thank you all, EU ambassadors in Vienna, I think you've been our strong supporters. We've had regular meetings where we could discuss issues at stake. We've done it in a transparent, objective manner, and then to see how best we can meet your expectation. And then I want to thank you for that too. Didier has gone through the level of contribution that you're giving to this organization, both to its verification regime, in the build-up, and then political as well in terms of reaching out to people outside the EU context to make sure that we get the treaty as universal as possible. And you've done it with, I think, great success. We worked together to bring back the ratification of Angola. I think that was one of the EU first work together with the CTBT in terms of ratification. We're doing a lot together to get more and more ratification, and I'm sure we'll succeed. Even if sometimes people say I was talking to few now, and then I was at an EU event in Brussels a few years ago when somebody said, he said, but Mr. Zerbo, the CTBT is like a zombie because the treaty is not in force yet. I say, because I always see the glass half full. The good thing about a zombie is that it never dies. So whatever you do, And that's basically what the CTBT is about. It will never die. It's here to say, if it's a zombie, make sure you run away because the zombie will still be there. And that's the beauty about this treaty. And then I want to thank the EU for giving us this strength and giving the strength to the zombie to stay up. And then even if some people push it back, and I can tell you the zombie will succeed and this treaty will enter into force. And the zombie will succeed also thanks to the involvement of youth. That has been one of our priorities. And you've seen the SnT featuring young scientists and policymakers all around, many women, young women involved, and then they're all in this room. And then, I mean, not all, but you will see them, doing a lot for this organization. And that's something that I'm certainly proud of. I think we started very small, and then now we have young people across the globe. And, I just saw Carlos. Carlos is probably one of the smiley face that you see all over the world when non-proliferation and when CTBT issues matter. And then I was asking Carlos, how's your mother in Texas? Because I did meet Carlos' mother, and then she was thanking me for having somebody like Carlos doing the job we do. And I think Carlos is here. And Carlos, you will never be old to not be part of the CTBT youth group, like many of you. And I want to thank all of you for the work you do, the young women and men that are working for the CTBT. I can't talk about all of you. I say Carlos because if you walk in the corridor and you see a smile, no, it's Carlos. And that's the reason why I was talking about Carlos, but all of you are doing such a great job for the CTBT. But you've asked us to get you some mentoring. And the mentoring is coming from the group of eminent persons that was set up 5 years ago for the CTBT and by the CTBT. They've met today and yesterday, and then those are experienced diplomats and high-level officials. Some have retired. And as they say, because of the CTBT, if I take, for instance, Ambassador Hoffman, who is here, and you see Hoffman has been in every single session, and although he's over 80, because of the CTBT, he stays young. And I think he will make sure, like Bob Kemmerett as well, who often tell me, Lassina, I will never retire until this treaty is in force. So Bob is probably 83 today. Wherever I go, I say, please allow Bob to retire and get this treaty into force. So I want to thank the EU for helping Bob to retire by getting this treaty into force. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zerbo, for reconfirming that the CTBTO is alive and kicking, and I think anybody attending this conference would be in a position to confirm that. This is really a very important conference, and this shows all the efforts that you're putting behind the agenda. Now, a lot of EU member states are represented in the audience. I see a lot of ambassadors here. And two of them are part of this panel. I would like to hand over the floor to one of them, the permanent representative of Italy, Her Excellency Maria Assunta Acili. Ambassador, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Let me start by thanking the EU delegation, and in particular Ambassador Didier Lenoir, for inviting me to say a few words today, and to share my personal experience as a chair of the PrepCom last year. I'm really glad that we can celebrate today the long-lasting and successful cooperation that we've had with the EU and the CTBTO over the past 40 years. The EU is first and foremost a peace project. CTBTO is as well a peace project. And this is why the mutually reinforcing action that the two institutions have been doing together over the past years is a reality, is important. And it has to continue in the future. From the Italian viewpoint, I can say that we have been a staunch supporter of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, which we consider to be a major building block of the current multilateral disarmament and non-proliferation architecture. This commitment to disarmament, arms control, and non-proliferation is an essential component of our foreign policy, and that is why we are particularly proud of the strong cohesion that the European Union has shown over the years in support of CTBTO. As a PrepCom chair, I have seized every opportunity to reinforce the sense of ownership and involvement among signatory and ratifying states to further spread the awareness of the CTBT's political relevance and practical usefulness, and to advocate for a prompt signature and ratification of the treaty by those states that have not yet done so. We have also launched at the end of the year 2018 the initiative of a resolution in the United Nations General Assembly, which was focused on the cooperation between the UN system and the PrepCom to further a close collaboration between the UN and the PrepCom. And the resolution tabled was co-sponsored by more than 60 countries, which means that, and it was eventually adopted by the General Assembly on 26 November 2018. This shows that there is awareness, and the awareness of the importance of this organization is solid. We still have to work to promote the universalization of the treaty and its entry into force. That's why there is great need for state signatures to keep up their outreach and awareness-raising efforts, both at the highest political and diplomatic levels and within the civil society through a bottom-up approach. Events such as the CTBT Science and Technology Conference provide exactly an ideal platform for a dialogue that brings together policymakers, technical experts, scientists, academia, industry representatives, and younger generations, and allow us to give a very concrete contribution in this regard. Indeed, much still needs to be done, and I trust it can be done. As we say, when there is a will, there is a way. Our shared commitment to the universalization of the CTBT in the face of the current threats to global peace and security is crucial. Each of us has a role to play in this regard. And that's why I invite you all to work together to turn the political momentum into action and eventually reality. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for outlining what needs to be done and what your country is doing for entry into force of the treaty. Our ambassador highlighted that the 28 member states of the European Union have signed and ratified the treaty, but the same goes for many of the countries, for actually all of the countries that usually align with EU statements. So if you look at the numbers, that brings them that makes them pass the 40 mark, actually. And we are very grateful for their alignment and for their support as well. Now, let's move a bit away geographically from Vienna and from Europe, but staying on the same topic and on the same messages, I would assume. I would like to hand the floor to Her Excellency Morakot Srisvasti, the permanent representative of Thailand, sharing her views. Ambassador.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Excellency Ambassador Didier Lenoir, the head of EU delegation, Excellency Dr. Lassina Serbo, the Executive Secretary of CTBTO, Excellencies, distinguished guests. First of all, I wish to offer my sincere felicitations to the EU delegations on reaching this 40 years of cooperation with the UN family in Vienna. I thank the EU delegation for organizing this event and for inviting me to share some experiences on Thailand's cooperation with the CTBTO. As you all may be aware, Thailand is one of the most recent countries to ratify the treaty in 2018, after signing in 1997. Yes, indeed, it is a very long time, 21 years. We took a long time. But I must say that I am proud to be a part of Thailand's effort to ratify the treaty from the very beginning to its conclusion, when we deposited the instrument of ratification in New York last September. The CTBT, or the zombie, as mentioned by the Executive Secretary, therefore holds a special place in my heart. I was a desk officer in Bangkok preparing Thailand's signature to the treaty in 1996, before being posted here in Vienna, working on the Working Group A, Working Group B, with the Ambassador Hoffman as the Executive Secretary, covering CTBT and other issues in Vienna. And again, before our ratification, I had a hand in pushing forward our ratification process in my capacity as the Director General of the International Organizations Department. The delay in our ratification has not in any way hindered our continuous cooperation with the CTBTO. We have long been hosting two IMS stations, namely the PS-41, a seismic station, and the RN-65, a radionuclide monitoring station. We also participated and benefited from a number of projects under the Technical Cooperation Program, some of which are funded by the EU, such as the project regarding the improvement of the noble gas measurements in South Asia, conducted in Chiang Mai province, as well as the training course on access and analysis of IMS radionuclide data and IDC products. The additional data on noble gas background in different regions really helped enabling the CTBTO to improve its international monitoring system and the data network worldwide. The technical cooperation program and sharing of experiences are therefore a crucial part of PTS work. The SnT helps provide further opportunity for the scientific community to meet and share new researches and innovations, as well as strengthening networks which will be helpful for enhancing cooperation in the future. Excellencies, distinguished guests, I believe that the past 40 years of the EU engagement with the UN and other international organizations in Vienna has yielded many successful collaborations, benefiting not only the EU-UN cooperation, but has extended to third parties as well. There are many great stories to tell, like the fact that all 28 member states of the EU have already ratified the CTBT. In ASEAN region, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, we are also glad that all 10 members of ASEAN have ratified the CTBT, and that we have long been a nuclear weapon-free region. We sincerely hope that soon the CTBT will enter into force and help ensure global peace and stability with the ultimate goal of a world free of nuclear weapons. Meanwhile, Thailand stands ready to cooperate with the PTS and partner countries or organizations, including the EU, to promote the early entry into force of the treaty. I thank you.
Thank you very much indeed for these words, Ambassador, for also outlining how closely your personal biography is intertwined with the history of the CTBTO, and also for pointing out that ASEAN is similar to the EU in the fact that all the member states have signed and ratified. Actually, it so happens that tomorrow the EU delegation will have a meeting with ASEAN to discuss a number of issues, and that will be one of them. Now let's move back to the beautiful Mediterranean. We're very pleased to have here Her Excellency Natasha Meli-Dodé, the permanent representative of Malta. Ambassador.
Thank you, and thank you, Executive Secretary and Ambassador Lenoir for inviting me to be here. I'm particularly pleased to be here because I come from a country that, since its independence, has adopted a very principled position on disarmament and non-proliferation, a position that goes hand in hand and in line with the values of the CTBTO and obviously of the European Union now, even though we did sign and ratify the treaties before we actually became members. Now, a lot has been said about what the EU is doing and what individual countries are doing within the EU to keep on championing the values of the CTBTO and the entry into force of the treaty. But of course, even before the treaty enters into force, it is not a zombie and it is not a theoretical aim. I come from a country which is in the Mediterranean. It's placed on a seismic area, and I can myself cite one of the benefits that the treaty, even before it comes into force, is giving out to individual countries and to regions and to different parts of the world. We have a national data center that is in place and that allows us to receive and analyze data. And I was very happy to have Dr. Zerbo visit Malta a little over a month ago, and we have started discussions to have a tsunami warning agreement. My country, the last time we have recorded a tsunami was in 1908, but one never knows when it comes back. And so these are one of the few practical examples where the treaty and the CTBTO is working and is leaving a positive impact on the daily lives of the individuals in the end. So no, the CTBT treaty is not a zombie. It is leaving a positive impact, but of course we have to look into the future and make sure that the universalization does take place. Now, the way we see it, if we want to let's say, come out of the cynical situation that we are finding ourselves in and perhaps the bleak sort of outlook that we have. I really believe that events like this are extremely positive, and maybe the future lies in the hands of science diplomacy, because we really need, as diplomats and the politicians who we seem to be struggling at the moment, we really need to start listening more to the empirical data and to the scientists and to listen a bit to them. And I would add a bit more, and I know that Dr. Zerbo is a big champion of this cause as well, science and youth. I know that when I was organizing his visit to Malta, he said, but you really have to make me meet with the youth, with the university students. I want to discuss with them, because from them I learn. He didn't want to preach to them, he wanted to learn from them. And I think we should all follow this line, because we have a lot to learn. The youngsters are, in fact, our future. We have to learn from them. And it is, in fact, also one of the areas where the EU is financing and is assisting a lot through the training sessions of the CTBT youth group. So I want to end on a positive note. We should all keep on working, of course, towards universalization of the treaty because it is extremely important. But we should also give maybe a bit more space to our youth and to science and listen a bit more. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, and particularly also for mentioning the importance of reaching out to youth. This is something that came up quite prominently yesterday at the opening segment, and this is also an important element of our 40 years, which is why I'm very pleased to now introduce our final speaker from the CTBTO Youth Group, which is, I think, a beacon in the context of involving younger generations in this important issue. So our last speaker is Mr. Samuel Leux. We've already gone a bit over the scheduled time, but we're looking forward to your remarks. Thank you so much for being here, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for inviting me to represent the CTBTO Youth Group at this panel. I'm Samuel. I'm the regional coordinator for North America and Western Europe for the CTBTO Youth Group. The link between the European Union and the CTBTO Youth Group is strong and continues to get stronger. Thanks to the support of the European Union and others, our group has grown significantly over the past 3 years. In 2016, we started with only 20 CYG members. Today, we have reached 700 members in 90 countries, and we are still growing. Thanks to the EU voluntary contribution, our members have hosted international workshops, capacity building trainings, outreach activities, and intergenerational dialogues. For example, in July 2018, we convened an informative meeting with Jacek Bilika, the EU Special Envoy for Disarmament and Nuclear Non-Proliferation. Together with my fellow Belgian CYG members, we introduced to Mr. Bilika the work of the CTBT, its mission, as well as the role of the CYG. In August 2019, we hosted a conference in Kazakhstan where we brought together GEM and CYG members in a discussion about CTBT role in regional peace and security. This summer, we will host a capacity building training for 10 CYG members on new tools for nuclear non-proliferation and disarmament at the Monterrey Institute for International Studies. Finally, we are working to redesign the online educational curricula that aspiring CYG members will have to complete before becoming a CTBTO Youth Group member. As Dr. Zerbo always says, youth are not the leaders of the future, but they are the leaders of today. Our generation will have to work hard to make sure that the CTBT will finally enter into force. CTBTO Youth Group members are committed to this mission, and we look forward with the EU, Dr. Zerbo, and other member states to achieve this important goal. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for sharing these remarks and for the fantastic work that the youth group is doing. Before we move to the reception, I would just like to thank once again our panelists for their presence, for their active participation. I would also like to thank the CTBTO for partnering with us, making this event possible. I would like to thank all of you for your attendance and your interest. And I would like to thank the core team in the EU delegation who made this possible. I would like to mention Attila Juhas, Alain Maton, and Gladys Marabo. Thank you very much. And we'll move to the reception. Thank you so much.